It's one of the reasons I picked pharmacy and why I went to retail specifically. So I could do one of two things for 30 to 50 years. Like, how awesome is that? I got it, lived with it for a while, and then suddenly felt like, okay, I got exactly what I wanted, but maybe that's not what I actually wanted. Hello, Dr. Thea Blystone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm so happy to talk with you and share both your unique experience to get to where you are today since you've overcome so much, and secondly, to talk about in what an innovative way you're practicing as a pharmacist. Thank you for joining me today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk with you, Jamie, and to get out to those that are following you and really just share with the pharmacy world what we've got cooking.
Because you have a lot cooking. And you and I go back a couple of years thanks to, I think, LinkedIn. Maybe it wasn't LinkedIn. I remember attending a pharmacy summit and you were one of the guest speakers. And I was just like, oh my gosh, if I could be like Thea someday. Like, she is doing such cool things and working in a new way. And it was back when I had no idea what I was doing and I was just looking for more. I had no idea what that meant. And now we've been in close contact for a couple of years. Thea's actually been to my house, broke her tailbone at my house, and we stay in close touch in between. But Thea, I want you to jump in at a very interesting part of your life because I've interviewed a few people before and they tell like a traditional story of like went to pharmacy school, got this job, changed my career. But you had a very specific, very hard thing happened to you in that you and your two kids were actually homeless and experienced homelessness not that long ago. Will you walk me through your history and especially on how you survived that hard situation?
Yeah, for sure. I'm still healing till today, but that was in February of 2015. So we'll back up just a little bit. Graduated pharm school, 2005, did the thing for a while, got married, and realized quickly that it wasn't the right person, and we tried to work it out. We tried to fix it for 3, 4, or 5 years. And had some babies in between thinking, we're just going through a rough spell. We'll get through it. Had a farm, 100-acre farm. And it was his mental health that really pushed us away, unfortunately, after counseling and much counseling. We tried everything to try to help us to keep it all together. But unfortunately, his choice was to not work on what we needed to work on. And that left me without a place to live because I had sold everything up to that point to go live on the farm. We were building a huge, remodeling a huge farmhouse and doing the thing. And so it left me with no place to go and 2 kids in tote. We took 3 bags, 2 kids, and a truck I couldn't afford. And I left. It was scary. I wasn't sure where I was going. I had called my mom that morning and I was like, Mom, I'm not sure what I'm doing, but I know I can't stay here. And it was it's funny now, incident that had happened. The dog had threw up on the floor. She had eaten something that she wasn't supposed to eat. Then she threw up. And when my son, who was almost 3 at this point, had the same reaction that my ex-husband had, it was a wake-up call that I'm breathing this into my children, this environment that we're living, and it's not healthy. And so that was the straw that broke the camel's back, per se. It hit one day. I was still in it up until the day before, trying to fix it, trying to do the right thing. But when you see it as a mom, what it's doing to the children, and I'm sure, Jamie, you've seen incidences in your own life where something comes out, you're like, ooh, was that coming for me? We took 2 kids. I took 2 kids, a truck I couldn't afford, and 3 bags of clothes to my mom's house. We slept on her floor. She didn't have a place for us. So homeless for half a second, I suppose you could say, but really didn't have a place to go. That was comfortable of any kind. It wasn't in a car. We didn't have to sleep in the truck, but it was definitely an experience that I had to go through for sure to get to the resilience that I find today in everyday life of being an entrepreneur and what that has done for me along the way. But at that time, I had lost my job in the middle of all of it because I was doing remote NTMs for Medicare Part D plans. And at that point, it started drying up because they were taking them in-house to the insurance plans. And so I found myself no job, no house, a truck I couldn't afford, 2 kids I wasn't sure how I was going to raise, and 3 bags of clothes. That was February of 15. So, not that long ago, to what I have today, which is a very prospering career as a pharmacist doing her own thing. One of my friends said, Thea finds what she likes to do and then figures out how to get paid for it. And that is pretty much true, how I roll. But really just tried to pick myself up and dust myself off the best I could each and every day. There were plenty of days that I wanted to sleep on that mattress on the floor all day and cry myself to sleep every night. But my mom would come in and be like, okay, go get a shower. Your kids are watching. Let's go. Kind of moments. And, without my mom, I wouldn't be a pharmacist without her. And I wouldn't be where I am today without her help and generosity and the love that a mom gives to her kids unconditionally forever. And so I find myself in a fun situation of rebuilding everything from that point. But it was an experience that was so exciting to me because it was on my terms. Everything was on my terms at that point. And I realized at that point, as I was rebuilding, I got a house by August. I found a job in April at the hospital system and just a regular staff pharmacist, moved up to, second in charge there, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. But the building of the household again and showing the kids that this is what happens sometimes and that this is how we rebuild. And it could be due to a fire, it could be due to death, it could be due to divorce, it could be due to any reason, but this is how we do it. Having them see what it all was and seeing how they are now is an amazing ride too, just to be, as a parent, to see my adversities throughout it all turn into their learning as well as mine. So it was kind of cool.
That's very cool. And it's like the ride continues because I would think if I went through something like that, I would just seek comfort and stability from there on out and try to get the safest job and always just have that, I don't know, security. We call them like the golden handcuffs, but they're really comfortable when you're in them. I can see how this really parallels with entrepreneurship and how the experiences of, emotional ups and downs. We'll talk about that in a minute. But what made you seek out entrepreneurship rather than just trying to build up a fortress of comfort and security as your driving factor? Does that even make sense?
Yeah, I think it was. At first, it was the golden handcuffs, and I'm so grateful. And I still am today because I'm still at the same health system doing a different thing today. But it was so comforting to know that I had a stable, secure job at the healthcare system, and I could go to work, come home. It was predictable, it was dependable, a routine schedule that wasn't 12 hours a day. Really was able for me to be able to build a life with the kids and do the thing. And, I found that as it became predictable, it became mundane and it became boring and it became all of the things that I was like, this is all I have to do every day. I like talking to people. Why do I not get to talk to anybody? And building my way up to second in charge. I mean, I'm a leader by instinct. That's who I am. I coach, I lead, I mentor, just because I invest heavily in the relationships I build with each and every person I meet. And that in and of itself pushed me to be higher up and higher up. It just kept pushing me. And when I got second in charge, I realized that I didn't want to go get an MBA. I didn't want to be the director of the pharmacy system there. And I was like, I have everything I need. I don't need to go get more education. I really don't. And that's really where I got to the point of, this is boring. I'm built for more than this. And if you would have asked me that 5 years previously, I would have said, no way. I'm good with just being a staff pharmacist, doing the thing and being, going in, clocking out kind of thing. But because of the adversity and being able to build something on my own for my own self, it just set the stage for what was more to come and pushed me and drove the factors of, I'm not settling. I'm not allowing that to happen to me because I had settled all along and I didn't notice it. Hindsight's 2020, right? Like you don't really get you don't really get to see the preview until it's in the rearview mirror. So it really was just driving me all along was the same entrepreneurial ideas that I've always had. Build something that's going to leave a legacy, do the right thing every time. I have a motto with my kids, humble, kind, and teachable every single day. And if I'm not growing, how do you become humble, kind, and teachable every day if you're not growing, especially the teachable part, right?
Exactly. And isn't it funny how what we have this picture of what we want and we work for it for so long and then we get there and then it's kind of like, oh, this is fine. But I'm kind of a different person now. Now I want different things because I had kind of a similar view in pharmacy when I graduated. It's one of the reasons I picked pharmacy and why I went to retail specifically. And I was bragging to like my family and friends. I'm like, there's no career ladder, guys. Like, I can be a mom with my kids. There's not a career ladder. I'm either a staff pharmacist or I'm a manager. That's it. Obviously, I have zero, like, I'm not going to go up that district path. So I could do one of two things for 30 to 50 years. Like, how awesome is that? It's a perfect career. And then I got it, lived with it for a while, and then suddenly felt like, okay, I got exactly what I wanted, but maybe that's not what I actually wanted
Forever, right? Like, it was great to try it on. It was a great dress to wear, but it wasn't necessarily what I wanted for every Christmas dress and every prom dress and every dress I'll ever wear in my life. It's just not going to be the same with where we want to go and where we keep growing. If you can continue to keep growing, it's never going to be the same fit.
Exactly. And that's why we've both really enjoyed building something on the side. Well, we had the stable jobs that are serving us well, that are paying the bills, and had fun as really like a creative endeavor, building something on the side while we had that job. So it wasn't like putting yourself and your family at risk saying, oh man, I hope this newest venture wins. Otherwise, like, we might lose the house, kids. Because we like stability and we like comfort, but at the same time know that that's not our full potential. And especially you, ever since I think day one of meeting you, I've known your vision for yourself, that you're leaving a legacy bigger than yourself. And by doing that, you're responsible to yourself to do something that leaves a legacy and doesn't just clock in and clock out. So tell me what you've been building on the side for the past few years and all the updates, because it's been a little while since we last spoke.
Yeah. So I built a career around care management and ambulatory care settings, or basically doing remote patient monitoring, chronic care management for physician offices. I built that up alongside the hospital job for the last 5 years, and the hospital found out about it and they asked about what I was doing. So I had the opportunity to go talk to the C-suite, the CEO, and tell him that I could make him 10 times what I take him as a pharmacist if he allowed me to full-time position to do it for his physicians, and they did. And this has been the last probably almost a year and a half now of doing the remote patient monitoring program there at the health system. And, there's lots of avenues coming up with, they're not able to put a team behind me. So they're contemplating, pulling out and going into my business, and really pushing me outside of the comfort zone that I know of the health system. And, Jamie and I have talked a lot about, why do I stay? Why do I stay? I stay because they gave me a job when I needed one, and I'm loyal till the day is long, and which is a character flaw for an entrepreneur. However, I've been able to build it and do well and show other pharmacists really how to do it as well as an entrepreneur building a consulting business or implementing for their independent pharmacies, really showing up for them in a time that independent pharmacy needs us to show up for our communities and really help the bottom line of the pharmacies as well, to really stay viable in our communities because our communities so much need us. So that's kind of, I've been building it all along, mentoring all along, but really trying to get the involvement of, leaving the legacy on pharmacy, because I could do my job every day and not share it with anyone. I choose to share it because it is a passion project that lights me up, first off, but it also is, I want to leave pharmacy better than I found it. And I think there's a lot of opportunity outside of pharmacy that pharmacy schools don't tell you about. And I think Jamie and I are on the same path here of building a better pharmacy school opportunity for really allowing pharmacy students to see that there's more than clinical, hospital, or retail pharmacy. And there's plenty of others, but those are the main two that you learn about for sure. So
my favorite part of the story is that you just talked with the person in charge and said, like, look, here's what a pharmacist can do, and came prepared and confident in yourself and just said, like, look what we can do, instead of patiently waiting on the sideline or scrolling Indeed.com trying to find that perfect job. You had already built relationships. You'd already shown your value. And then instead of just waiting patiently for them to say, hey, Thea, can you show us what a pharmacist will do? You said, like, look, this can save you money. It improves your ratings. Like, this is a win for everyone, and created it for yourself. How many pharmacists could do that today? That's amazing.
Yeah, any pharmacist. I mean, you can build an opportunity, whether it's in a business, in a pharmacy, independent pharmacy. Unfortunately, you can't do it for big box store because they don't want that, but, you know, they want the volume. So keep doing the volume in big box, but come over here and play with us in the consulting world, as it is really exciting to see what pharmacists are capable of. And as I mentor more and more people, they're finding more and more ways to implement in different settings that we didn't even know. Their objective was to start a consulting business, and they ended up implementing for other folks. And I have one in a PBM, I have another one in another clinic, and then me in the hospital. So it's like, it's just really funny how you set out on one thing, and opportunities when you start looking for them are really galore everywhere.
Yeah, that's something I found too. Before, for years, I was just trying to apply for new jobs. No one would even respond to me. I couldn't get anyone to pay attention to me using basically applying online, because that's all I knew. And then I found by creating a business and just starting to serve people and taking that one next step, suddenly you become like this lightning rod for opportunity, and people come out of the woodwork and ask to work with you. Whereas even to this day, if I was still at Walgreens, I guarantee that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't changed anything. It's like by changing how you're sharing with the world, and one, being like you and just generously and openly sharing everything you're doing to help other people, and two, to have a business or an entity to solve problems, a little bit of magic.
It is. It's exciting magic too. So I was running all of my business through TM Pharmacy Consulting. That was the company that I had started, and I have decided to open up the service line company instead of TM Pharmacy Consulting, which will still be open for mentorship and implementation for other pharmacists to learn and grow from. But Tenco Health will be my go-to source for all service lines, and really doing the work for other facilities, whether it's the, health systems, doctors' offices, long-term care, that kind of stuff. So I'll have opportunity in all of those sectors to really provide care management services to the communities in need. So I'm excited to see this grow.
I'm so excited. That's the first time I've heard that name. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome. So tell me the difference for people who are listening who are like, oh, I'm interested in working with Thea. Can you tell us the difference one more time just to clarify?
Yeah, you anyone looking to work with me as a pharmacist or healthcare provider wanting more about care management services can find me through the TM Pharmacy Consulting business, which we'll have listed also in the notes probably somewhere. It's tmrx.care is the website for that one. And then Tenco Health will be the company that is doing the work, the care management services for doctors' offices, long-term care, healthcare systems, that kind of stuff. We'll be operating the business that way.
Congratulations. I love seeing how you're growing and what's happening for you, Thea. This is amazing.
It is. It's exciting. A lot of opportunities coming at once. I have different companies looking to broach into pharmacy world, at different companies coming at me that are wanting to get into the care management world, that we're in the care management world. And I'm using the consulting and expertise that I've seen over the last 5 years. I've become a valuable asset in that world as well, which was a surprising shock to me. But, those companies are needing the help and the view that I've seen for the last 5 years, even in and out of the pandemic, really how this has grown and what it looked like and, what it can look like for the future. So it's exciting.
And by kind of owning one corner of pharmacy and making that your specialty, you've now created a brand for yourself and an asset for yourself that is so valuable, Thea, that it's not just how many letters are after your name, like you were saying, or like getting the degrees to hopefully get the opportunities. By consistently standing up and shouting to the world about the benefits of pharmacists working directly with patients, especially in trackable ways, you can show that everyone clearly wins. And look at this, like now it's truly an asset for you that maybe it didn't feel like for months as you were getting started and felt like a whole lot of work and it would just be easier to clock in and clock out. Look at you now. I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, it's been exciting. And, I think of it as a passion project, and there were plenty of times that I wanted to give up, but I chose not to because I knew that I couldn't stand to be a staff pharmacist ever again. And I don't need a life of dispensing. I need a life of care, and our community needs care. So here we are.
Okay, so if we were to capture you today and take you back to Thea, let's say 3 years ago, and you could just tell yourself one thing when you were still just getting started and feeling like those first obstacles, what would you tell yourself 3 years ago that you know now?
I think my first one is everyone has challenges, even though you can't see them. Because you're online and I'm online and people see us and they're like, well, they're really doing it. They've got the thing going on and but they don't see behind the curtain. And it is sometimes not for the faint of heart to be able to keep going and keep doing the thing, but really putting down social encouragement and social engagement with people to kind of get that validation that I'm on the right track, because I have found that not a lot of people know anything about my tract, right? Like it is so different and so valuable to the communities, but it isn't something that someone can give me a playbook for. And, even if there are people doing it, they're not sharing, which is even worse in my world. Like, don't tell me you're even doing it because I don't want to know. Like, no way, no how. But, it's one of those things where I think if I could go back and say, keep going, don't look for external validation, know that what sets my heart on fire is really what is meant for me, and just keep going. Just keep going. When you are out trying to sell stuff and get into doctor's offices and all of this stuff is hard, but it is so worth it. At the end of the day, learning and growing every single day is so worth it today.
I totally agree. It's so worth it now. And looking back, you're like, oh, it wasn't that bad. But when you're living, you're like, this is the worst. I should just give up. And in a way, I almost think that if you don't think at some point, at least once a day or once a week, like, maybe I should just give up. I almost think you're not dreaming big enough or doing enough to push yourself that I should give up is kind of a good metric that you're right where you should be. And
right.
It's just pushing you beyond that comfort zone, because that's what I think I thought, and still to this day I'm like, maybe I should give up. No, it's too fun, but like that moment of, is this worth it? It still strikes me today.
Yeah, and it is worth it. I'm living on the edge of my comfort zone, on the fringe of my comfort carpet is really what it is. It's a magical carpet ride, and I'm on the fringe doing my thing, but holding on, but still getting by. And it is so exciting to see what opportunities really open up when you're willing to live on that fringe, because it is so much bigger.
I couldn't say it better. Exactly. Last question for you, Thea. You've made some really cool connections with doctors, independent pharmacies, health systems, with decision makers who can put a pharmacist in place. That's something that pharmacists are very scared of, is like talking to decision makers like that and getting their foot in the door and developing a relationship. And you alluded to that a couple of minutes ago, and like, it's scary when you've not used this muscle before and like introduced yourself and offered your services. What have you learned over the years? And for just like really quick wisdom and insight onto how to get in front of the right decision makers in your community, even if you don't know them yet.
I think the easiest way in any door is, what do you have in common? as an independent pharmacy owner, you have your network of patients in your database right in your pharmacy. And how many patients do you share with that doctor you want to go talk to? Or have you been to your doctors to tell them that you have 60 patients of theirs and they're doing great things, or they're missing the mark on this, which is probably hurting the doctor? Having the conversation about what you share is way easier than trying to go in and ask for a sale or ask for an agreement or a collaboration or ask for anything. If you just go in willing to share of, okay, we have these patients in communal use, I guess you could say, or, in our community using both services. What does it look like if you knew about my services a little bit more and what I have to offer? Because I don't know that all physicians understand what a pharmacist does outside of dispensing. I would venture a guess that most don't. And go into the data and the detail of like Jamie and PGX, consulting and what that looks like and the DNA stuff. And they just don't think that pharmacists are doing anything else. But what they fail to realize is that pharmacists have quality metrics too that we have to hit in our communities today. And by sharing that information, you're not asking for a sale. You're asking to be part of the community that cares for their patients. And if you can do that, I've not seen one person close the door. And it could be the office manager, it could be the CEO, it could be the doctor themselves. It doesn't matter. The conversation doesn't change when you talk about the community you're trying to support.
I love that because you already have that in common. And so to just lead into what you have in common and like dovetail it into helping their practice rather than jumping in cold and like trying to do a sale. Love that. And
yeah,
I found the same thing. Like prescribers and decision makers don't necessarily know what a pharmacist can do, but they all love pharmacists and they trust us and they've had a great experience with us. So it's not even like, you pharmacists are untrustworthy people. I've worked with shady pharmacists before. Like they all love us and like, oh yeah, I call my pharmacist all the time for like dosing questions. Or we're coming from a really strong start that I think we don't take advantage of enough and like appreciate how well respected we are. Like if we're scared, we just assume that like they hate us. I don't know.
And that's not really the case at all. You're so right. They do love us and they do appreciate our value. But what our validation comes down to really is about the phone calls that we have to make to tell them they're wrong. Well, no one likes to be told they're wrong when we're fixing a prescription for a patient. Like no one, and that's our interaction if you don't go out and speak otherwise. And so I think that it's an opportunity to sell by inspiration, not by selling a product, because you're not asking for a product for them to buy a product from you. You're asking to inspire their patients to get healthy. And isn't that their cause too? I think selling is more inspiration.
I love that. Selling is more inspiration and just taking a load off of their plate.
Right.
And ultimately helping patients thrive because we know America's patients need more.
Yes, everyone needs more. Health literacy in the country is 12%, ladies and gentlemen. Only 12 out of 100 people know what's going on with their healthcare in our country. And there is a reason why every corner needs an independent pharmacy today.
Yes, absolutely. And I think our job's not done until every person has an independent pharmacist or a personal pharmacist in their corner helping them with so many aspects of life. Thank you so much for your time today, Thea, sharing your story, what you've created, and what you're still in the middle of creating. It's not like you're done and sitting back in your easy chair. You're still in the middle of this, and I have a lot to learn from you over the years as we go. So keep up the good work. I'm so proud of you and just wanted to highlight you to other white coats on what a forward-thinking person can do and what you can build, especially with the comfort and the security of a job that look what Dr. Blystone has created and hasn't let any obstacles hold her back. Thank you for just being a shining example and being so open and sharing with the world everything that's working rather than figuring out the secret and guarding your secrets with a lock and key and not letting anyone else learn. You're just a joy to work with and just honest and candid and sharing what took you many years, a lot of money, and a lot of hours to figure out.
Yeah, Jamie, it's always a pleasure to talk with you as well. I love watching our journeys come kind of full circle together and overlapping and sharing with the pharmacy world what more can look like. And, I think it's going to be an amazing ride as we look to the future of pharmacy and everything. So I'm excited to see where we go.
Up, that's where we're going. And for you who are interested in Dr. Blystone's links, check out the links in the show notes below. That's where you can find both of her company pages, as well as her personal LinkedIn page, where she's writing all the time, daily, on what she's doing to keep up with her. So thank you for this conversation. Check those links to get into her world, and we'll see you next week.